Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Rise with Sarah Sincotta. I am your host, Sarah, and today I'm really grateful to have Jarryd join me from Brisbane. Jarryd, you are the director and BDM at the Property Collective. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. Super keen to get through the session today. And it's been great connecting over the last couple of months and learning a bit more about what you're doing at Rise and what we're sort of doing at the Property Collective.
For sure. And I love it because the word of the year for me, Jarryd, is expansion. And you are embodying this right now with the expansion of the business into Brisbane. So for those that do not know you or perhaps the Property Collective, tell us about yourself, your journey, and the lead up of expansion.
Yeah, cool. So rewind the clock sort of 10 years ago now, I first got into real estate, jumped out of uni, was finishing sort of the last year of uni and always knew I'd land in real estate in some way or another. That was then when I met Will, who is one of our sales directors. We were sort of operating and running a sales business. And then that was part of a larger sort of franchise, I guess, operation and world where property management was very centralized. It was sort of separated from sales. Few years went along, and then it got to a point where we decided, off sort of Will and Hannah's initiative, that the Property Collective was a good opportunity. So we planned heavily and created and built the Property Collective to basically one day turn the lights off from the franchise world and start up the Property Collective. And my role across that has varied significantly. So when I first started in real estate, it was sales, found a really, I guess, good skill set and passion for growing and running the business and operations. Then we started the Property Collective, and as every business does, have challenges with staff and movement, and sort of naturally found myself plugging a bit of a hole in the BDM space and using skill sets from sales and operations to really sort of drive that space and get us to where we are today with just over 1,400 properties under management, and most recently in the last sort of 6 months, pressing hard in Brisbane. And we've been managing stuff there for the last sort of 12 to 18 months, but haven't really pushed it too hard. And that's when I made the move up, and we're now very much invested into the Brisbane market.
I love it. And people might think that you're crazy entering into a new market with all of the noise that's going on. So how has that been, Jarryd? Has there been any challenges that have come up? Like, I know you and what I see, like you're absolutely, go-getter, but I'm really interested to see if there has been challenges that have arose from that.
Look, I think with every, new market, there will be challenges, and we haven't had a strong brand presence up here, and we're up against some really good operators who've got a lot of legacy and community, I guess, infiltration across what they're doing for their sort of suburbs, etc. So there has been some challenges in entering that space and building those relationships. But I think where you are persistent and where you can demonstrate value, no matter what's happening in that person's world, I think they're always open to learning a bit more about it. So for me, it's really, I guess, being persistent with knowing that what we've got would work and benefit their business and benefit the clients that are sort of, I guess, associated to those ancillary services in real estate. So I think it really just comes back to a belief in knowing that what we can deliver is above and beyond what we think some of the competitors might offer. And I think that also comes back to a personal reflection and waking up and controlling your head noise and the sort of headspace around being the new kid on the block and having sort of no presence here, to basically sort of knuckle down and, I guess, clear that head noise to continue executing on the mission or the task, if you want to call it.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of things, belief, amazing. And especially that you mentioned the mindset, because if you didn't have belief in your service or your business or yourself, the team, you wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And also, I think a lot of the time fear can hold people back from actually going showing what they want to do. So I think it's actually amazing that you've mentioned that. And for anyone watching today, in the real estate space, it's, if we didn't believe in what we were doing, we just wouldn't do the thing, right? Or we wouldn't go out and actually have conversations and connect with people. So mindset is so important. So Jarryd, being a director and a BDM can be quite a demanding role. How do you prioritize your health and well-being?
This is a good one. So it'll probably freak some people out, but I'm a morning person. My day starts at 4 a.m. So
You're a 4 a.m. club, not a
4
5.
a.m. It used to be 5 a.m. and then time was not working in my favor. So to do more with that, I sort of decided that for me to get alignment and do the things I need to do, it means just getting up an hour early. So up at 4, generally sort of the first 15 to 20 minutes of the day is just sort of quiet, a little bit of journaling, listening to podcasts, etc. Get myself organized, leave the house at 5, go to the gym, train for an hour. The new facility that I use up here is awesome. So as part of that, there's an ice bath. So every morning I'll hit an ice bath, 5 degrees, 5 minutes, probably the only time of the day where there's true silence. Like you have to be in the moment to conquer it. And I think just those small little challenges at the start of the day means that whatever else is going to come should, in theory, be relatively easy. So that just sort of sets me up in that space. Home by sort of 6:30, have some food, and then I'm sort of into it by 7:15, 7:30. And depending on what happens in any given day, I'll sort of work through, and that might sort of finish at 6:30, 7 o'clock. But so long as I get at least a good sort of 45 minutes to an hour at the end of the day where I can sort of do my own thing and go for a walk and sort of, I guess, taper off the brain and just unwind, then that sets me up again for success the next day.
Question: what time do you go to bed
then? So I try to be in bed and asleep by about 8:30, but there's definitely times where that can push out to 9:30. That can make the next day a little bit challenging. So sometimes Sunday afternoon on the couch, there'll be a bit of a nap to recharge and recalibrate. But I think also, again, like where there's times that you are busy or you're having those challenges, I think it's just a good reflection point to know that if it does happen again, I can do it again, I can do it again, I can do it again. But sleep this year has been a big focus and priority. So I'm pretty, particular about getting set up and ready for that environment.
Yeah. And I love that, you spoke about, your routine and having that solid routine so that you're good every single day and how you're showing up. But Jarryd, were you always like that? Or was there a pivotal moment in your life where you actually like, okay, this is what I need to do?
I think I've always been, and I sort of joke and say like the sickly or most sickly consistent person you might come across. Like I'm very habitual, very consistent in that way. And I think for me, it's been a benefit in my career, but sometimes can also be a bit of a challenge where I don't have much flexibility. I've sort of got to set that agenda and have to stick to it and can't sort of deviate. So again, getting a bit more flexible in that space. But I think so long as I've got those structures, and for me, it's probably just continuing to refine what I think good foundations are. And that, again, has helped me grow and get better and better and deliver, whether it be bigger numbers or better service or whatever the measurable is at that time. It's really looking at this sort of routine and going, all right, cool, that's served its purpose for now, but to go to the next level, there might need to be some adjustments and refinements. And that's sort of why the 4 o'clock came about, to sort of, go to the next level and sort of keep refining and improving in that space.
Well done, Jarryd. I love it. And especially, not to be biased, but I love that, you are you are a male openly about it, because I feel like as well, especially in the industry, there has been a certain stigma around how we need to, be perceived. And a lot of the time it wasn't around, doing cold ice baths and journaling and having that time of solitude. So I think it's a great message, and especially to men out there, and so much around mental health in around males as well. It's really important that you're looking after you're prioritizing your health, and great that Jarryd, you're advocate for that. So I think keep sharing that message, especially in the real estate space. It's actually amazing. So on that, I think that you would then be a massive fan of having systems and processes in place.
Yes, correct. That's probably where my specialties lie in terms of building systems and processes and looking at the best ways, or what I think the most efficient ways are to do things. So yeah, spend a lot of time in that space.
Yeah. And has that helped you then with your time management on a daily basis? Because offline we were talking, you said you have at least 12 to 15 meetings a week, and that's just with
Yeah.
alliances in the real estate industry. So how does that all come together for you, Jarryd?
Yeah, definitely. So good systems and processes. So like an average week at the moment as we build the foundations in Brisbane will be anywhere between 12 to 15 meetings. That could be online or face-to-face. I mean, Brisbane's a relatively large state and there's people sort of travel can be a bit of a challenge. Couple that with 200 plus calls per week and going through and sort of assisting staff and stuff that's happening at HQ. So there's definitely lots that's going on. But I think it's just about having a really clear objective of the night before, what do I need to achieve the next day? And as part of that, structuring my day and the technology and stuff that we've built and how we sort of work through different workflows across the property management lifecycle just means that we get more efficiencies. We take less time off the task. You know, there's technology administrators that really help drive efficiencies in that space to then free us up to do what we do best. So we use project management platforms. We're huge, what I call form users. So forms to get data into different places to then trigger this person to do that, this, that. So it's really just working out the best systems and structures. And even, you know, where I talk about doing 200 calls a week, formulating my call lists and, you know, building automations off the back of it. So if I change a status and it says, left voicemail, I leave a voicemail, but an automated email goes out. So just all these little things that you can do to better create a more effective and efficient environment, because that in the sort of evolution we are at the moment is a bit of a numbers game. And that, you know, for a lot of people building out their BDM journey, real estate is relatively easy in the sense that it is a bit of a numbers game. So, you know, the person who makes the most calls, books the most appointments, the person who does the most appointments creates the most opportunities. The person who has the most opportunities generally makes the most money, and the world is their oyster from there. So that structure helps me really get, you know, the maximum out of those calls and the meetings and the follow-ups around it and what I send to them before the meeting and the videos and stuff that I create to really sort of cut through and make sure it's as efficient as possible.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so much of what you said then I think is a big takeaways for any BDMs listening. It's we're really lucky that we are in this role at the moment with the way that tech is advancing to help all of the back end to, you know, set up campaigns in your CRM, to have those automations in place. It still blows my mind, Jarryd, sometimes that people still do not have a CRM system. And I'm like,
you're mad if you don't have one, get one.
You're mad. And just in terms of, I'm just like, how are you managing to follow up all the contacts? And I'm sure that there's some missed opportunities there. So I think it's really important what you said is have those systems and processes in place, utilizing tech so that you can be out there. I'm a massive believer, Jarryd, that BDM shouldn't be behind their desk, right? Like they should be out there talking and meeting people. And we are similar in our beliefs around that and the role, because we're talking about, you know, the digital age and tech and the evolution, which is amazing, but also property management and real estate, we are dealing with people every single day. And
correct.
part of that is to keep being in front of people and meeting them people in person, not just online. So you're a fan of that? You're a massive love of meeting people in person?
Yeah. Too many coffees, too many coffee meetings. I do a lot of coffee meetings. So that's, sort of how I structure my day. It'll be, sort of morning through to mid-morning, maybe by about 1 o'clock, I'll finish a lot of the face-to-face sort of stuff. And again, get back, go do calls, follow up on everything that's happened during those meetings. And then again, lean itself towards the evening or afternoon if there are actual prospective landlords that we're sitting down and presenting to, then getting face-to-face. But I think it's also a relatively okay space to be in where you've got interstate clients and, you know, you're meeting online. I think that's a great opportunity. I think, you know, you need to push past just a phone call. It should be allocating time to them online, put a face to the name, show them who you are, really build a relationship, or as much of a relationship as you can, over the computer, just to make sure that you are really giving all the time and attention to people when you're either physically with them or online as the second alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. What impressed me, Jarryd, was when we connected online, and then we actually organized a Zoom meeting because we're not in the same state. Otherwise, I'm sure we would have been catching is looking at the way that you present yourself online, and it very much is a true reflection. But what impresses me is you've done a really great job of integrating who Jarryd is as on a personal level and your personal branding, with incorporating the branding of the Property Collective. What was because a lot of the time I see certain profiles and it is just around the business. Was there a certain motivation or something that triggered you, or perhaps a reason why you incorporated that personal side as well with the business side for your
Yeah, good question. That's probably like a overarching strategy for the whole business, whereby I guess a lot of, let's just say, franchises might see the franchise being the sort of leverage point, or the point that's greater than the agent or the person. But I think we've got to realize that it's a balancing act, yeah? And people, if you're in a BDM role, should be putting yourselves out there, putting your own personal touch to it, but also leveraging and getting the support of the brand where possible. So I think it's a combination. And for a lot of people, that, entry point into the journey might be through the brand, but as a BDM, you should definitely be building your own personal brand within a brand, because if they're both working concurrently, that's where you'll get the best results. If one's sort of trying to overpower or dominate the other, you get a bit of a conquer and divide approach. So having that working together, if you look at sort of like a pyramid of marketing, like the three layers all need to work together. So that's where, I guess, from the overarching strategy of our social media business that run it, that's something that's an initiative across the board to give everyone that personal feel and touch, and also make sure that there's a nice even blend with the brand as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I really am encouraging more, I like to push some boundaries and challenge the status quo. Jarryd as a trainer now,
Yeah.
but especially if there are directors watching this, and I know some are fearful of some BDMs putting themselves out there while they're working for the brand. I think, like what you said, is a great message, is embrace it and find that balance. Because at the end of the day, the BDMs, you want them to be invested in your business, right? And they're the ones who are going out and forming those relationships. So I think it's just as important that they get to embrace who they are as an individual, whilst working within the brand and embodying the values that the business has, as well as them personally. So I think that's a great message that you had, Jarryd. And I hope to see that more and more with different
Definitely
agencies and franchises going forward, because I think that's definitely the future of real estate, because we know that people just want to relate to another human being, right? We've all
100%.
got feelings and emotions, and that's generally, and the psychology of sales too, when you look into it, people just want to feel something and connect with something from you, and that's generally they need to trust you as an individual because of the.
And I think, for like a lot of business owners as well, that's how you get real integration with your BDMs, because they should be treated like a sales agent. They should be glorified to some degree. They need to feel like they've got their own brand and their own personality to it. And that's, I guess, what a lot of sales agents have. And you sort of see that space sort of blow up, and sales agents, get, I guess, all the love and attention. But it's something I think the BDMs need to get more involved in, because again, where you're making decisions as a prospective landlord, it's not necessarily with the brand, it's with the person who's sitting there and promising you the world, and hopefully going to deliver the world to you as well. Like, it's not just the brands. I think there needs to, again, be that balance.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Jarryd? Because I have my thoughts on this.
Hopefully they're the same.
Yeah, I think they will. I have a feeling they will be. But typically there's a lot of agencies, and you'll see their sales agents are partners within the business. But very rarely you will see a BDM or a property manager as a partner within the business. What are your thoughts around this? Do you think that's going to change going forward because of the evolution of our roles and more property managers and BDMs wanting to make a difference in the whole brand and the business itself?
Yeah. Look, I think absolutely. Like if you are wanting to build a rent roll and you are wanting to go on a journey with someone or with a team, there needs to be, I guess, some skin in the game. And I think an opportunity to build out a career map or a success map for a BDM to have equity or have ownership within the business is critical, because that's when the job changes to a career and you get the best tenure and the best performance when someone's invested, they've got a career, they can see the larger roadmap that's happening. And I think to some degree, it also puts in their mind the importance of just those little extra 1%ers. It's sort of like the concept of, building a nice car and you sort of own the car, you don't want anyone to scratch it and you want to take care and it's your pride and your joy. I think that's where you get true synergy across there. And I think when sales businesses, or if you're a sales owner and you don't have that opportunity for your BDMs, I think you'll generally find that your rent roll will flatline and you'll start to see a lot of turn and churn and burn, because that BDM will either sort of get sick and tired of doing the same old thing and not realize the value that you're also attributing to the rent roll. They might want to jump into sales, and you just go through this, I guess, cycle. So I think to keep BDMs in that space where they feel valued and want to continue being a part of something that's being built and realize the asset value of the rent roll, I think it's a great opportunity. And you can structure it so many different ways around sweat equity or KPIs, and there's so many ways to do it. I think it's about giving them the opportunity to do that, and hopefully the business owner is realizing the opportunity and value that they're adding in that space from an asset perspective as well.
Absolutely. And I'm encouraging it this year, to be honest. If I'm coming across some BDMs and they're doing, like, I know some BDMs that are doing very big numbers in terms of for the business, I was like, go and have a chat. If you want to stay where you are, go and have a chat with the director and discuss potentially partnership or equity in the business. And I think we talk about retention in the industry, especially in property management, where these kind of incentives give people the opportunity to invest entirely into the business values of the business. So I love that we have that viewpoint on.
And it's the same crossover with sales agents, right? It's where a sales agent becomes the performer and the star, and if they're not integrated into the business, it's like, well, what's stopping me from going out and doing it myself? And off I go. And you again get these businesses that sort of are at the mercy of high performers that leave and come and go. So I think if you want to create a business where you're consistently doing those numbers and growing something that will benefit not only you but others in the business, you need to have that integration.
Yeah, love it. So what do you think the key skill sets are of a BDM?
Good one. I think first and foremost is time. So how you plan your time and time management. I think if you don't have any particular understanding of the concept of time and how it can either run through you or run beside you, you will get to a certain point. I think communication is critical, and understanding how to effectively communicate. I think having really good structures around following up leads, converting leads, and how you deal with leads whilst they're on the market. If your role requires you to lease them, et cetera, et cetera. So I think really good structures, systems, and processes around that. I think every BDM needs to have a really good set of sales skills. So not going into a property saying, hey, I think your property is worth this, but really qualifying, understanding their wants and needs, finding the pain points. What's my point of difference? How is what you're experiencing going to be better with me? And how am I going to be the solution to your current problem? So I think a really good skill set around there, like actually understanding how to overcome objections, close deals, put deals together. I think it probably the things that I've found that has sort of helped me do the numbers that I've been doing or done in the past. And then I think off the back of that, it's really just organization. So being organized, knowing what you need to do, and using your structures and your systems and your processes to keep you on track, keep you organized. And I think there's a level of, not that it's really a skill set, but just being comfortable with yourself and pushing past no's, because a lot of people will receive rejections and no's, but it's what are you doing after the no that'll determine what happens for the next opportunity, the next opportunity. So I think, yeah, for me, it's just a concept that I always sort of riddle off. At the end of the day, the sun's going to rise and the sun's going to set. If they don't want to work with you, that's fine. But so long as I've built value and they trust me and there's, competency in what I can deliver, then there should be no reason why they'll say no.
Yeah.
So there are, I think, a combination of sort of, skills that you need to really hone in and do that. And, a lot of repetition and role play. Getting good on the phone is probably one that I think is missed in the industry.
Yeah.
You'll generally see a lot of sales agents do like the hour of power or role play and this and that.
Yeah.
I think if you're a BD, you need to crack someone on the phone within at least 10 to 15 seconds. Like for what I'm doing at the moment, I've got a set agenda, a script and dialogue. And if it's not executed in that 10 or 15, I know I've lost them from there. So it's, again, getting really good on the phone, but that sort of ties into the sales skills, that I referred to as well.
I love it. And one of my KPIs that I had, Jarryd, was 200 calls a week. The best week was I did 275 calls.
Nice.
And how did you do that? And it's like, well, when you break it down, it's only 40 calls a day. If you don't have time to make 40 calls a day, well, you got to make the time. Like, they are non-negotiable things.
As
a BDM.
100%.
I actually did an article on this, and I did another post about it today, because I feel like as an industry, I have seen some people getting complacent. I don't know why the little thing's doing a thumbs up. But that's
I thought that was you or me. I was like, awesome, let's keep rocking and rolling.
I love that.
So good.
Complacency is what I'm seeing. So people like DMing and they're just using the social media, and they're thinking that, they need to just connect with people. And I still have this belief that there's a time that you need to be picking up the phone and calling people, but it's having an intention too. I always say you need to have an intent when you're calling that person. What's the value that you're going to bring to that person? What's going to be the outcome of that phone conversation? And one thing I wanted to add with that skill set, I think, is just what you said again, is just that self-belief and that self-confidence in that role. Especially, I remember when I started out, I didn't have scripts and dialogues, Jarryd. I was just making the calls and essentially hoping for the best. But it was from doing those and having the confidence to actually just do the call and fail. It is what then led me to be able to problem solve, to have that ability to just have a conversation with someone. So I think that's another thing, that just do the thing, right? It's
100%. And if I was, like a BDM, like, I mean, I run some training and stuff for our BDMs, but if I was a BDM with no BDMs around me working out of an office, I'd go to the top sales performer and say, hey, here's what I'm trying to achieve on the phone. Here's the objections I'm getting. Can you help me work through some scripts and dialogues? Like, I would absolutely be utilizing the skill set that sales agents generally have and molding that into becoming a weapon BD.
Yeah. It's interesting, because the sales agents I used to work with used to say they used to love when I was on the phones, and it would motivate them, because I was
to
just
get on the phone,
doing the calls. And I think we need to embrace the fact that the BDM role, it's going to be a spiral of highs and the lows. And I have the mindset that it's embracing both, because when you get that no, then you will get a yes, right? But when you have a challenge, there will be a lesson from that challenge. So
from that 100%.
And learning to embrace the no's, embrace the challenges, right? Because from beautiful opportunities can come up too. So
absolutely.
Jarryd, where do you see foresee the future of property management and the BDM role? Because one of the things that I love that you talk about, and you actually not afraid to showcase it on your socials, is about the cash flow for investors and how they can understand that. So do you think that's going to be a big aspect of a BDM's role in the future, really understanding the intricacies of owning an investment property and helping them with that cash flow?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally believe that If you don't understand the principles around building wealth through property and what an investor goes through financially, then you're probably not ready to sit in front of them just yet. I'm not saying you need to own a property to sit in front of someone, but I'm saying you need to understand the mechanics, the financials, and how things actually work, because that investment from them to purchase a property, take out a mortgage, they encounter a lot of emotions that you may or may not have yet experienced. And I think if you really understand and utilize the principles of investing and how to talk about cash flows and calculate yields and fundamentals around different investment types, whether it's positively geared, negatively geared, if you're land banking, all these different types of strategies, you then become the next level and that trusted advisor, where I even now have people call me and say, hey, Jarryd, we're thinking about buying this one. Do you think it's going to be a good investment? Blah, blah, blah. I'll go through and do a full cash flow for them. I'll work out the yields for them based on the proposed sale price. Obviously, look at what the property is going to rent for, but that adds so much more value. You become the trusted advisor, and it's not just a position of order taking, right? And if you've been proactive and you've built that value, I haven't even worked with them yet. I just said, hey, this is what I can offer you. If you've got rental properties you're looking at, you are interested in knowing what the cash flows associated and all these different things, run it by me. I'll do the numbers with you and we can work out if it's going to be a reasonable investment. So I think really understanding that will just take your skill set to the next level, and you can actually then become not an advisor. I mean, we're going to be careful how we talk about advisory in real estate, but someone who actually understands what they're talking about. And through demonstrating more competency across the life cycle of property management, the trust goes up exponentially. I mean, anyone can walk into a property and tell you what it's worth. Anyone can tell you, based on RP data or whatever you use, what, average days on market and all those sorts of things are going to be. Yes, that's, pretty standard these days, in my opinion, but it's like, how do you then talk about other principles that are above and beyond your normal sort of stuff that you'd hear in the living room?
For sure. Well, what we're talking about essentially, Jarryd, is what I like to call the investor support services. And you'll see I would say the BDMs that had been in the industry probably for quite some time now have gotten to that point where they have learned these skills from their partnerships. Like we're talking brokers, financial planners, to really understand the intricacies of owning an investment property and how they help people on their trajectory of that wealth creation. There's wealth creation companies out there that are literally helping, investors get 1 property to 10 properties. And we've all got this information accessible to us. It's really easy to Google these people.
100%.
Have a chat. So I think there's no excuse now, as a industry, whether you're a PM or a BDM, to not understand the fundamentals or the basics of owning an investment property and what that client has gone through their journey, or even asking the client, what made you invest in the first place? What are your goals? I love what you've said. And I think I definitely can see this is adding value and actually talking about, okay, what have we seen in the area in terms of growth? And again, you've got access to all this data, but sometimes investors won't understand, and we can't assume or make assumptions that they know what the rental yield is going to be on their property. Or if they're to invest, $1 million, that they know the rental income. Because I worked with so many investors who had already put down the money, they bought the property, came to me going, okay, we want a property manager. What am I going to get? And when I told them, like, is that it? I was like, what do you mean? You just spent $1 million and you don't know how much you're going to get for rent per week? They need us. They need us for that. They need us to help them and actually look at, okay, in 5-10 years time, your investment property is going to look completely different, right? We want to encourage people, especially in Australia, to hold their investment properties and how we can help them see the future and the wealth of their property. Do you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, totally. And like I built out tools for that because I saw a gap, and I said, well, for me to solve the problem, like I'll create the own tools and stuff that I use, and Excel and formulas and bits and pieces. But that, helps the landlord understand what year 1 looks like, what year 2, what year 3, and you compute and plug in CPI and what that might do for rent and 2 to 3% increases and all these sorts of things that you can do. And it's sort of, I think, a space BDMs need to get better at and not wait for those tools. And if you don't have the tools, make the tools, go out and get them, chat to your principal, chat to your partners, even to the point where you've got a really good understanding of benchmarking for cleaning and general maintenance and what this costs. Like, go get a builder, walk around a property with them, understand all the mechanics of actual property foundations, as opposed to sitting in that living room and saying, these are our management fees, this is what it's going to rent for, you should pick me. Like, add more value along that journey. Like, become someone that they have no other alternative to use but you, because you've helped them with everything along the way.
Absolutely. Even talking about maintenance plans.
Mm-hmm.
I know someone in my network that they purchased a property, they hadn't done a building and pest inspection. They rented it out, and in the 2 years that it's been an investment property, they have had to spend thousands of dollars on maintenance at the property. Whereas if an advisor or the business development manager had have walked through the property and actually had that awareness and that knowledge of, okay,
what's going on?
Yeah, this looks a bit dated, or, we need to get the warrant or how much warranty is left on. Talking about the depreciation of certain things on the property. Let's get a plumber in to check all of the washers to avoid call out fees in the future. Like, you're literally telling them how you save them money and how you can them be proactive in making sure that the management is a seamless experience for them and their property. So I love
and
that.
I think also, it's like, the depreciation one's a good one, right? Everyone goes, oh, get a tax depreciation report. And the investor's like, oh, okay. And you can sort of hear this reservation, like, I've got no idea what that actually means. Go and talk to a quantity surveyor, understand how they do the schedules, understand the benefits of a depreciation, work out based on, again, benchmarking ages of property, what they might sort of receive in terms of benefits when it comes to tax, and actually get it to a level where you understand it so well that you can explain what a depreciation report is and what the benefits of a report is on the property. Because if you don't drill down into it, sometimes the investor just sits there and goes, oh yeah, that sounds good, but they've actually got no idea what you're talking about, and they don't want to sound like a fool and go, oh, what does that actually mean? So really getting granular and going in depth around what all of these new terms actually mean for the investor.
Yeah. And it's I don't shy away that I talk about this to many of my clients, but generally as human beings, we will all have some fears, doubts, and doubts. Oh, I can't remember the third one right now. I've just gone completely blank.
Regrets?
No, not regrets.
Fears, doubts, concerns.
Uncertainties. Fears, doubts, and uncertainties, right? And
uncertainties, gotcha.
Yeah. And investors, especially if it's their first time, they're going to be feeling so many things, and especially with what you can see online now and in all of these landlord groups as well, you'll see that there's a common theme of their fears and their doubts and uncertainty. Going back to what you said, Jarryd, is like skills, already solving their anticipated problems or the things that they've got going on in their mind. You're mitigating those risks because of how you're educating them and actually showing them this is what the benefits are of having insurance, right? And we've all seen it, right? Online, landlords not getting insurance. Unfortunately, something's happened. It's been unfortunate. And then they're with loss of thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So again, going back, we can't just assume that our clients know and understand the things that we know. We need to be educating ourselves, upskilling ourselves, knowing all of the ins and outs of owning an investment property, the management side, to best provide value and mitigate their
100%, yeah. And I think the thing BDs really need to understand in that space, and something I drill in all the time with our BDs, is that we need to invest more time at the start with the landlord and spend a lot more time explaining all of this, and I always joke and say, let's bore them to tears with all the nitty gritty, but that's actually going to save so much time throughout the actual under management phase, the RM, the relationship manager, or if you call them property managers, whatever they are in your business, because that person is now working in a space where they're educated, there is certainty, there is confidence, they've got so much more trust. It's where you sort of, like you said, you don't have certainty and there's fear and doubt. That's where the relationship's jeopardized, you're questioned, you're not actually able to help them get where they need to be. And I think if you invest more time at the start, and like an average appointment for us, like with a prospective landlord, we're looking at somewhere between 45 to an hour and 15, going over absolutely everything, as opposed to just 30 minutes, bang, onto the next one. Like, I'd rather spend more time there to save more time down the track.
I'm all for it. And, there was not many, but I can recall at least 4 clients that my appraisals or my first encounters with them nearly went for 2 hours, Jarryd.
Wow. Awesome.
Ensure that I walked away with the signature, but it was
the business. Yeah.
They had so many questions and so many things that they weren't unsure. And I was giving them the time of day because I wanted to make sure that I left and they were happy and confident that they had peace of mind and security with their biggest assets. Because we're not talking about someone spending $10,000, talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions. And I think that's another thing that in future we need to really reflect on that. Someone has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. And yes, it might not be physically they have spent that, but it's a lot of money to be
absolutely
essentially. So we need to take it seriously, right? We need to really take that seriously as BDM,
absolutely,
and how we're presenting ourselves when we're talking to someone.
Totally. It's so interesting, like the amount of presentations I've done over the years where someone goes, no one ever explained that to us, no one's gone through it in this amount of detail. And you break it down, like, so what did they actually cover? And for a lot of BDs, it's just the fundamentals, what our fees are, here's a few little points of difference, and this is the price we think we can get for you, and this is roughly how long it'll rent out for. Not everything that happens to get the property ready, how we're going to, provide you advertising proofs, how the pricing strategy works, what the expected days on market, what the communication program is going to be like during the listed to live process, how we're going to transition the tenants into the property, how we're going to set up your landlord's insurance, do your smoke alarms, all these things. That's something you've got to be going through.
So especially so that you avoid going on, shitrentals.com or Purple Pinger's TikTok. We don't want that either, because there's been some big implications to some businesses about that. But
I can imagine.
Renters are smart now, as there's so much accessible information now and places that people can go. So I think, as a collective, we need to be better individually so that we can be better together in our raise those standards. If anyone's listened today and you're not quite sure, I'm here. That's why I do what I do, mentoring. Also, if you would like to reach out to Jarryd, I will pop your details if anyone wants to have a chat. I know that you're really passionate in this space too about upholding the industry. But so many takeaways. It's just been amazing catching up with you again, Jarryd. And I'm sure anyone who's listening is going to get so many things that they can take away and start implementing into the business right now, and really thinking about those ideas of how we can help investors in their wealth production, and also just to be healthy and really prioritize our well-being so that we can do what we love to do every day. So thank you for that.
No, that's my pleasure. Like, I think, the final thing I'd say to that is you've got to understand how to balance things. If you want to be a high performer, there's no point, having different elements of your life and shortcutting different things. You've got to really know how to get that balance, because it's great to operate at 100% for 2 weeks, but after that 2 weeks, you're going to drop down to 60 and 70%. And then you're trying to have to recoup up to 100. Like, I'd much prefer to sit at 85, 90% throughout the year and perform high, but consistently, because you've got those measures and those checks and those balances that you're focusing on. Because where you pull energy away from something and put it into something else, like, something has to suffer in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Well, thank you, Jarryd, so much. A great last take.
My pleasure.
Everyone listening. And for my listeners, in true Saracen Cottage style, keep rising, everyone. Much love.
Thank you. See ya.